Well, a nice jump can run, wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a nice jump can run, wouldn't do us any harm. Well, a nice jump can run, wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang out in kind, and we'll roll the old. Howdy, folks, it's Johan, your favorite little Link Bob, back at it today with a little bit of Threeb. But first, I need to go and point out, you may notice the title says, go watch Silverfillet. The fantastic solo dev of March is currently doing some drumming with his new electronic drum kit and does song requests. I put in Painkiller because that's the song that I think of most when it comes to drumming, and that is not an easy one, and he picked it up fantastically. So, if you're interested in some lovely live music, go check him out. He's super cool. Alrighty. KK sounds like a Baba. KK Kiki. We will do the lovely hydrate. Thank you. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Alrighty, so yes, we are back to Threeben. Oh dear God. I forgot about this. See, that's an even better intro. Is if you want to see someone with actual rhythm, go watch Silver. If you want to see someone fail rhythm, come watch me. Yep, welcome back to hell. Also, hey, good to see you, Pug. It is good to have the you. It's also good to have the others, but I see you a little more often. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's just, tis nice. Whoa. Fish tank now has 1%. Waha! Welcome back. No lingo. Man, I need to do some more lingo. I need to figure out, I don't think my current schedule probably works well for Boomerang. Because I would really like to continue his stuff, but, you know, I can also just download some other maps to play in the meantime. Gotten distracted and now making Witness and Taiji puzzles. I don't know Taiji. We beat 3B, progress will go so much smoother. Isn't 4B also really tough? Hollow Forces slowdown. Yep. It is something that you put time and effort into, which... Taigi? Okay. Which, you know, eventually, maybe by next Halloween. Nope. Okay, but that was along the right track. Not ain't pronounced like that. Alrighty. Fare thee well, Avon. Have a good one. Hey, welcome in Sorbet. How goes it with the you? Well, I don't know. Taiji is a game that's inspired by The Witness. I was following its progress for like a year before it came out, and I have played the entire game. You like it a lot. Oh, sick! I feel like that's a fairly high compliment of, I have been following this for a very long time, and I enjoyed it. You've made custom puzzles. Sick! 0.5 puzzles for the game? I still need, so we, my little family unit has picked up some pumpkins, and the Meat Han needs to do some pumpkin carving this evening. And I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off, but I still really want to do like a subtractive March pumpkin. Yeah! Hey, welcome in! How's it going, Robert? Well, you see, oh dear. All of Taiji spoiled for you, so you're gonna wait a while to get in. Oh god, I've done that so many times. I haven't had that with games, but like with movies. There have been a lot of times where someone like says something plot critical, I'm like, if I forget most things, so of course I'll be able to forget this. It never works that way, unfortunately. I only forget the things that I actually want to remember, but... Look at the Discord? Okay, we can do that real quick. I assume 'tis relevant. Oh my god! Yo! yeah, Pug! Oh, that's so good! Marsh Pumpkin! Oh, that's so good. It's great because the way I want to do it is kind of the inverse of that. Like, what if I can pull it off, and I think it will go terribly, but what I really want to try and do is basically where you've got the light showing through, I want to try and leave that dark, but then scrape through enough that the rest glows, which is significantly that is probably a lot less doable, but I'm gonna try it. This is probably as good as we will get for one that actually works out. That's so good, Pug! That's so, I'm so happy about that. That's, absolutely, need Silver to see it. I saw the virus stuff and the downloading. Yeah, I did not fully follow what was going on there. Did I finish core? Yes. Yes, we've gotten all of the strawberries in core. We've not done B. He also made a really stupid meme. Oh dear. But yeah, no, because you were downloading, you were just clicking download links on your phone, and it was please verify that you're not a robot. Activation key.zip. Yeah. So like these are like when you're using like an MP3 file converter and it's got like the big green download button that's actually an ad or whatnot that you were clicking on, or so I was thinking about the art I made for you and then I thought of this meme. Oh no. Oh dear. How it started, how it's yep, cute little adorable. I've gone around to my friends and been like, look at this, look at how cute this is, how it's going. Oh god, yeah, the thief. Very nice, Bug, very good framing of how the Johan has evolved. Isn't that just kind of the way of things on the internet though? It starts off adorable and then it gets, oh boy. Have assignments to do but Celeste. Oh, so do I need to stop playing Celeste so that you go do your assignments? Learning C++ because that's what your uni uses. I miss Python holding your head through everything. That's, you know, okay. I am not a big fan of C++, but I do think having some experience with languages along those lines is good. Python is great. I shudder at the lack of curly braces and semicolons, but it's got a lot of really good stuff, so I understand missing it, but stuff like C++ and Java is good to have under your belt as well. Like Garfield. Oh, that's right. I have not followed that a whole lot, but yes, I'm somewhat familiar. Did you know Grab? I do know Grab. It's been a little while, but I do recall. But somehow that feels less cool. C minus. Ayo. Didn't go to school the past 2 days. Why? Didn't wanna. I do not actually support such things, but I mean, if you're having a good time. I'm trying to, I think, yeah, I mean, and like, I will say, sometimes, if you just need a day or two, I was fortunate enough, my parents were like, are you just not feeling great? I'm like, yeah, like, okay, it's a sick day. Because sometimes you do need those. But, yeah, just, I don't know, somehow just skipping, I'm like, but that's also, look at where it got me. Well, technically learning C, but our IDE is C++ and they only teach us C. Oh, gotcha. I don't know if I've ever done anything in straight up C. I've been doing a little bit more of, see, there I should have grabbed. I've been doing a little bit more of C#, just because of Unity recently, but, because, oh man, my brain is terrible at this, but C++ is the one where you're actually having to, like, variable assignment and whatnot is through, like, memory, right? Or, I mean, it's all through memory, but you've got pointers. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Pointers. so that you're having to, like, allocate and deallocate stuff, which, bleh. I haven't made anything else because the universe decided that I will not have a good time for 4 days straight. That happens. Sometimes you are just too powerful, and the world decides you need an Earth. This is something I've got at least one friend who's like, you know, the day I can focus on a task for longer than 15 minutes is the day I take over the world, and then there's also a number of them where it's just like, yeah, man, if I did not get monthly cramps, I could do so much more, but the universe was like, nope, gotta hold me back. Go when you can. Last year I had an attendance of 8%, and I, ooh, yeah. Yeah. I'm probably a very bad role model when it comes to school, because, like, up through, it's what, like, primary, or, God, I forget how primary, secondary, etc. is broken down in education, but, like, up through sort of high school days, I was very, like, I'm showing up, I'm getting everything done on time, usually early, I'm going to make sure my attendance is just about perfect, A+, all that, to the point of I did not have much of any sort of life. College still pulled through pretty well, but turns out that if you're a fairly good student, you can also just, like, miss the first hour of a 2-hour lecture and be fine. Don't recommend that. It's something you're paying for. At the same time, the lecture I'm thinking of was one where we had a bunch of reading, and then the first hour was usually spent recapping the reading, so I only showed up early if there was something in the reading that I, like, desperately wanted to address. But that is, yeah, no. Especially if you are paying for an education, get everything you can out of it. Justification, didn't wanna. Oh, you couldn't go to school, didn't just outright skip? Okay. That is fair. There are some there was one day where it was so icy. I live on, like, a little bit of a hill, and my bus stop was at the bottom of the hill. I tried to walk, and I could not. It was just a sheet of ice. Like, not even, like, slightly grippy, slightly roughed up, just it had, like, melted over in the morning and then refrozen, so it was just sheer ice. And I slipped twice getting to the hill. And I went, no, this simply isn't happening. Called the school transportation department, and they're, honest to God, their solution was, have you tried shuffling? Have you tried not picking up your feet? And it's like, yes, I've tried getting down on my little meat-hon butt and scooting. And you think that, yeah, no, I did not go to school that day. Or, no, I think I did that day, because I think what happened is my dad put chains on our car tires and drove me down to the bus. God, yeah, no. There are definitely some times where it's just like, you cannot get anywhere. Then it makes me think of, I know in Siberia, people will, like, walk to school when it's, like, below freezing, which is insane. Hey, welcome in, Sigma. How goes? I see you have chosen death, 3B. That's, we're right at the end of it. We've been working on it for 2 streams, so we will get there. We are threebing and thriving. Basically, I rolled my right ankle 5 times. Your left foot started hurting because you slept on it weird, and I got a headache, and I got sick and disbanded. Oh my god! You're just pulling up, you're pulling the short straw. Every day. That happens sometimes. That's no... Well, hey, hopefully you're getting through it. Hopefully, I always like to view it as, if I have a string of bad luck, it's because I've either had a bunch of good luck up to that point that I'm paying for, or I'm paying for the good luck ahead of time. You feel better now? Awesome. So, you've been building up that karmic debt, so, you know, your balance is clear for a little while, right? 88%? That's pretty good. Swap uni course anyway, because math was a mistake. CS is what you prefer. Man, yeah. Used to be a good student, then I got a tattoo and realized I'm too for caring. Yeah, no, that's... I do actually... I regret... I should have taken more math, in uni. Like I took some probability and statistics, but that was also like during a very weird time where I just information in did not stick. But like I'm using Khan Academy, relearning some stuff now, and trying to figure out where I want to be. Like library is cool. I'm enjoying that. But what I genuinely think I need to do more, just like that was so much further. I think I'm someone who, if I can get, I'm so anxious conceptually about like doing freelance work, because taxes are a headache, and then you're getting contractual obligations and but also, like, I am someone who enjoys flitting from thing to thing, and enjoys just like chewing on a problem and finding ways to make it work, which I know that I have said I am not much of a puzzle streamer, and a lot of puzzle games don't quite like give me that feeling, but like yes, I enjoy problem solving. Puzzles I'm a little iffy on, but like problem solving is something I enjoy. Maybe that's the distinctive thing. But yeah, it's like, I kind of enjoy flitting from thing to thing, so like trying to figure out how to lean into that, just go, well, for these 6 months I'm going to learn photography. See what money I can make on that, and then end up with no retirement plan, and yeah. But no, we'll see. Streaming has been genuinely great for just like being okay with just like, yeah, I'm gonna do something to have fun with it. And this genuinely, I probably should have made a little more like improvements to the stream, but it was just having a fun time, kicking back and seeing what we can do. We made a couple of small things. Wish I could watch Rain World, but I did kind of say you would play March today. Maybe just finish early in raid. Hey, well, hey, where are you at in March right now, Sigma? Because I didn't get to catch all of the stream that I was able to make it for. And my brain, I think you've done at least one more since then. So I saw you up through the lighthouse. What? No. Yeah. Like, computer science is really nice because math is very cool, and I love how it can be applied to solve problems, but like there's a lot of it that does not connect super clearly to things. Whereas CS, it's like, oh, this is how to apply math into functional solving things. Beat the game, so now I'm going to play the extra bosses and do some speedrun attempts and try and get a good run on Steam or stream. Nice, hell yeah. So you've even beaten up through Squirm, yes, a goo run. Well, I mean, Squirm does have an awful lot of goo, so. Whoa! Oh no, not quite far enough. Hate any math that applies to real stuff. Give me that. Oh, you only like the abstract. Interesting. I'm very much the opposite way. Like, abstract stuff is a little bit interesting to me. But it interests me because of how many times what we thought was abstract math ended up being practical. So it's just, I don't know. You like both. I just like math. I think that's fair. I struggle a lot with like putting it. I am someone who really, I enjoy problem solving. I enjoy creating sort of like webs of knowledge. And a lot of the abstract stuff, I'm just like, it doesn't slot into anything else that I know. It doesn't slot into like, oh, I could use it there. So I don't love it as much. Whereas like this morning, I was watching a number file video that was talking about like knight and king tours, and forming magic squares, which I'm not huge on, but I was looking at them like, oh, this is reminding me a lot of when I was looking into like drawing Celtic knots. And like a lot of these patterns are very like Celtic knot-esque, with the overlapping and underlapping pretty much consistently without a lot of straight lines. And I haven't sat down and like really parsed it, but I wonder if that's like I wonder if there's some quality of both the concept of like making Celtic knots and if there's something about the sort of like underlying pattern of Celtic knots and the touring, to see if that wording poorly. I'm wondering if there is some common underpinning. There we go. That's the nice, concise way of putting that. Love number file so much, but 3 blue, 1 brown is your goat, correct? That's, yeah. I have not watched as much 3 blue, 1 brown, as I probably should, but a lot of times when I'm like, I am really struggling with a concept, 3 blue, 1 brown is the one that helps it, like, really strike home. Both from the UK, we've finally done something good. We've also got silver, so 3 things good. Hey, welcome in, Evil Key. Evalkey? You know, I'm trying to think if I've ever actually heard your name pronounced. But yes, Celeste, welcome in. How's it going? Good to see ya. Ava, Evie? Okay. Wow, I pronounced every vowel differently. Let's go, Eva? But yeah, welcome in. We are, doing some Threeb. We've spent the last 2 streams trying to get through it, so we'll see if this is finally the time. But yeah, how's it going? 3 blue, 1 brown created his own math animation software, which is open source, and a lot of math adjacent creators have started to pop up because there's a— Oh, I didn't realize that he actually made that available. That's super cool. Doing well, how are you? Is this a first playthrough? Eva? Okay, Eva. Don't worry about it though. I still want to try and get it right. I suck with names anyway, so at least I need to learn it correctly the first time so that I can forget and fumble appropriately down the line. Or God, is it Eva? Oh no, wait. But yeah, so this is my first time playing Celeste. We've been going, it's been a couple months. Oh, sorry. Oh, grab, right, I can just climb. Oh. Letter E sound plus Eva. Okay, long E. Eva. There we go. Yeah, so this is, yeah, so I played like 30 minutes of it like a few years ago when I first got it. I was on keyboard, it sucked. So I've come back armed with a controller, and we've been going for God, how many months? But yeah, so we've done 100% strawberries. We've gotten all of the crystal hearts from the normal sides. We've gotten all of the B sides unlocked up through core. So now we're going back and we're doing the B-sides, and we'll hopefully eventually get to Farewell. Don't know if we'll do C-sides at some point, but at least going through B-sides and Farewell is the plan. Love this game so much, made your head hurt sometimes. I couldn't even think about this on keyboard. Yeah, no, it was, So, controller makes it a lot better. Just realized this is certainly a fitting level to play this time of year. Oh, true, yeah! This is the spoopy level. Man, I keep trying to find time in the evenings. I still need to actually just continue the Nier Automata playthrough. Like, I want to so desperately, and I've just not found the time, but I keep trying to find time additionally because I really want to play the Crooked Man. Not, probably just as a pre-record, but my evenings, I keep being kidnapped by friends and whatnot. It's terrible. Too much socialization. Don't know the word in English, but you know the thing where the education system people give you like a paper which functions like choose a subject, and if you have good enough grades, you can buy these things in a specific price, which is doable once a grade. For example, you choose English. You can buy anything that would help you learn English, like the price is 3,800, I'm assuming Polish currency, and you buy a thing for like 3,600 and 203, and they'll refund 3,800 of it. I know. I don't think I've ever experienced that in school, but it's sort of like reimbursement. So they're saying like, oh, we're giving you like a credit and we'll reimburse X amount of whatever purchase that's going to help you towards your school. You play on keyboard? No, I know some people do. It's just I cannot comprehend this pug because your brain does not like controller. Interesting. Just like in general or only for this game? I think I have a handful of strawberries left and a couple crystals, then the B-sides. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, the B-sides are a significant uptick. But they're fun. It's fun to go back and still like have the same theming, but you get to spend even more time in them. So yay! They keep you stuck longer. Given up on leverless, which is basically keyboard. Oh, okay. So, so just not using like the hats or the levers on the controller. Interesting. In general, I just can't use a controller. I hate the I hate the keyboard works. I can do any percent in less than an hour. I'm not sure where the and goes, but that's, I mean, hey. Oh, and key. Okay. And hey, okay, there we go. There we go. So, and hey, the keyboard works. No, and that's like, if different people, different things click better for them, right? It's just, that's really interesting to me that controllers in general don't click for you. That's, huh. Polish, it's called stipendium. Google said scholarship. Yeah, scholarships, I think, typically refer to like they're typically not like a reimbursement. They're typically like, I have X amount of, I guess scholarships I usually hear in the context of like higher education, so like going to university, and I have so much tuition, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to get scholarships, I'm going to get grants, things like that. So they're typically, a scholarship is for your education, here is some money because we think you will do good things with it, as opposed to like a stipend, which is typically you're doing like some sort of educational work and in return for some funding and such. Yeah, but a stipend, it's still, I believe, stipends still typically have like some sort of, it's, I guess, yeah, it's, I don't know, I don't know if there is just like a single word for it, but it sounds like a reimbursement thing, right? Don't think I ever got that kind of thing when you went to school here in the USA. Did get a scholarship, so it's all good. Yeah, scholarships are nice wherever you're at. There's a lot of pride in players that use analog stick on controller because it's worse and harder. Oh, leverless as in leverless fighting game controller. Oh, wow. Okay. Tried to switch it for Celeste, but I like having an excuse for what. That's fair. Yeah, sometimes it's like, you know, it's not my fault, it's the controller. Plausible deniability. We should get Celeste at some point. It'll be fun. No, and that's, I think my overall plan with Celeste, like what I am committed to doing, is I want to finish the B-sides. I want to do farewell, and then I think I want to mess around with Celeste. And this is gonna sound kind of terrible, but I kind of want to wrap up the games that I'm playing on stream as much, because I'm realizing I really enjoy streaming. I am also probably going to need to get a job that overlaps fairly consistently with when I can stream during the day, which is when you guys are awake. I love streaming, but I also am finding, I think a lot of what makes it so fun is I get to interact with this community, right? This community that we've built. And just, you know, I can stream in the evenings, but most of y'all aren't awake. So it's something where I will probably lose the ability to interact with this community live. And, you know, that's maybe I will try and pick it up later and such, sort of at that time, when I do get like full-time job. But I want to move, I think I want to move more towards doing like pre-record stuff where I can still sit down, I can engage with the game, I can talk, and then I can get some, then, you know, still interact even if it's more asynchronously, and then like very occasionally when I'm like, oh, I've got time this weekend, I can do a stream or whatnot and have that sort of be like a little special thing. But I want to make sure that the things that we've been doing together on stream, at the very least, I get through, so if I do have to make that, like, break, that's something where, like, it's a clean thing. Farewell and modded, your two true loves, oh dear god. Which will happen first, beating Farewell or finishing Rainworld? That's a good question. Joke's on you, I have insomnia. True facts, true facts. Working and streaming is balancing act, for sure, your schedule's all over the place. Yeah, it's like, I can find time to stream, it's just I can't find time to stream during because I was like, oh, I'll stream in the middle of the day when I don't have a job. That's fantastic for that, sort of as like a replacement for okay, I'm not working right now, so like I'll have time, I'll do this during that time. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about the exit strategy. So I've got all of these lovely viewers from a lot from Europe. Which does not synchronize well with working a 9 to 5. Celeste, friend of yours, stopped streaming when he found a new job on a stage sub for like 4 months by accident. Oh no! If you record the playthroughs rather than streaming, I bet you would finish at least 2 times as fast. Oh, certainly, because I mean, no, I yap a lot, right? Like, how much am I actually, even when I'm going there, like, I'm not making as much progress because I'm not, like, thinking about what I'm doing. The yapping is the fun part. No, exactly, and it's, admittedly, the couple of times I have done pre-records, I think I'm still doing plenty of yapping. It's not the interactivity, which I love. I love getting to hear you guys be like, oh yeah, no, here's this neat math concept that I've never heard of. Like, oh, that's awesome. But if y'all are asleep. Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, I found this stream through Celeste category, but I haven't looked at the game once. Awesome. Well, hey, genuinely, that makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. Because, you know... What? Oh dear god. That falls away. But, like, because there's a lot of people who play Celeste, and believe me, there are a lot of people who play Celeste better. But yeah, no, exactly. I'm here to talk about nothing with silly little internet strangers on your phone. And that's... I think that's a lot of what I love about streaming. And it's, I guess what I finally figured out is there are, like, two overlapping but competing aspects of what I have come to enjoy about streaming. On the one hand, it has done such wonders for getting me to sit down and engage with games and think about it, because forcing myself to actually talk about what's going on, it makes me actually think about things more. It lets me engage with it, because before streaming, and I mean, it still happens sometimes, but I try to mostly relegate my video game playing to streaming, to doing a pre-record, or doing something with friends. Currently, I think the amount that I'm doing with friends is a little out of whack. I need to bring it back a little bit. But it forces me to be mindful in engaging with games, because previously I was not in a great place, and I used video games as a space-out coping mechanism, and I wasn't engaging with them. I was just playing, like, Magic Arena, I was playing Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and, like, Slay the Spire, just things that were fairly repetitive, going for basically serotonin or dopamine hits, and not really, like, thinking or paying attention to what I was doing with it. I wasn't extracting anything from it. I was consuming, but I wasn't getting anything out of the consumption. Start streaming and go, okay, well, even if I'm streaming to no one, which is, you know, how it starts off, I'm going to be talking, and I'm making a record, so that I can come back at some point, and I can go look at what my thoughts were at this point, and I can use that, perhaps. And that was so cool, and I love doing that. But then, you know, people start coming in, and it's like, oh, I also get to talk to all of these cool people. Serotonin, modded Celeste reference? Is there... Oh? Is it because it gives you serotonin, or is there modded Celeste that has serotonin pickups? Oh god, the stamina crystals are just hits of serotonin. Heyo. But yeah, so it's like, I really enjoy that aspect of it, and I still get a lot of that out of pre-records. I don't get the, like, live interaction, but it's like, you know, if I can't fit the live interaction at reasonable times, then, you know, I can at least still focus on one. There's a map called Serotonin. It's a terrible map and you hated it. And yep, Sigma with the probably a map name. Perfect. Fairly well known. Gotcha. As with many things, especially in, like, pop culture or things that I'm having anything to do with, I live under a rock and have no clue. There are a lot of Celeste maps. I'm unsurprised, especially considering how many of y'all, Baba folks and whatnot enjoy it. Like, Celeste, Jump King, Baba, Lingo. There seems to be a lot of overlap, ergo I'm sure there's a lot of custom content. No! Including a lot of really high quality ones, also unsurprised. When people really enjoy something and put a lot of time and care into it, you can get some really cool custom stuff. Games with custom maps mods are the GOAT. What? Yeah, and it's very interesting to me because as like an interactive thing, I really enjoy playing stuff that you guys send. Because again, like Baba, I'm done with Baba, mentally and emotionally. But I still want to see the cool things that you guys are creating, so I keep trying. I keep going like, is today a day where I can sit down and I can play some Baba and enjoy it without going, like, not the funny haha, oh look at streamer pulling their hair out. No, my sanity is being drained and bad things will happen. It is not, I have not been in a good mood for it for a while, but I still, it's something I constantly evaluate because I want to see more of what people do. But it's funny because I think a lot of what I really enjoy getting out of games is they have been crafted to communicate a message. I enjoy video games in the same way that I enjoy like a good movie, show, or a good book, where it has a thesis and it wants to tell me something. And I love interacting and having conversations with that. The custom content, I feel, I've not at least seen a lot of custom content that's like, here is a story that I'm trying to tell. That said, some of them do have some fantastic theming. Looking at you, word scramble. And some of the troll pack stuff. But I don't know. It's just a lot of it. Seems to be more. Blah, blah. We will hydrate. Thank you, Robert. Hydrated. Thank you much. Putting a pin in a hydration thought. But they're typically trying to communicate some interesting, like, puzzle or entertainment idea, which is very cool, but it's not what I don't tend to look at games as much that way. And I've gone through different phases on it. Maybe not about life or some moral message, but perhaps something about the puzzle system itself or math. Oh no, certainly. And that's like, there's still, you get something out of it. It's teaching you an internal logic. And like Lingo, for example, teaches a great internal logic. And that can be really fun, but that tends to be, I think I talked about this a while back, but this is, as someone who is really interested in video games as a medium, because I would like to create some, and that is something where if I do continue along like a library education path, they are things that I really want to look at how they interact with both of those things. Like, should video games be in libraries? My answer is yes. Should video games be in school? I think genuinely yes, but not in the form that they typically end up. But I'm really interested in trying to split up and categorize them and try and come up with terminology for describing it. And in fairness, I have not actually looked at what other people have done for that as much because I don't know what words to use. But I generally speaking break games up into, by and large, entertainment-driven games and like narrative conceptual games. Basically, the games that you play because they're entertaining, they provide novelty, they provide something to chew on, and then the games that may still have components of that, but their focus, the driving factor, is they have something to tell you. And the line blurs a lot there. That is a terrible categorization system, but that's how I'm trying to like go, you've got GTA 5 over here. That it's something people play to mess around with as a sandbox, by and large. I know there's a story. I have not heard many people talking about the story for, wow, what an amazing thing, as opposed to something like Night in the Woods, which doesn't really have much of gameplay loop, but does have a lot of really interesting narration to give to it. I agree with that, but there are some games that are simple fun and nothing more, same as book. No, certainly. And that's I wish there was a good hierarchical way of communicating that, and that's what I keep trying to think of, because I don't think that libraries necessarily, but even then, like, we carry books, right? There are books that libraries maintain for the sake purely of entertainment. They aren't necessarily communicating any sort of great idea. But at the very least in, like, education, I don't think that GTA 5 is necessarily a strong educational tool. Whereas I think there are some games that, like English classes, having them play something like like Night in the Woods, or even Undertale. There's a lot of really interesting things to glean from the writing of those games. I think that there are some games that do a very good job of providing some basic visceral context for historical events. Not saying that they get it one-to-one, but I still remember something that made a huge impact on me as a child. Playing Medal of Honor, and it had a one of the missions is one of the is it Overlord, Operation Overlord, one of the US D-Day landings at Omaha Beach, and you start out in one of the landing craft in the mission, and the landing craft goes up, it drops down, and then you have to get over, like, you know, the very, very short stretch of beach to then go into basically bunkers and start clearing that. And I got so frustrated as a kid playing this because it didn't pull punches on... You weren't safe in the landing craft. There were defensive gun entrenchments that could hit your landing craft and kill you before you had a chance to do anything. If your landing craft hit the beach and the door opened and machine gun fire came in and killed you, you couldn't do anything about it. There was no cover on the beach to make it more convenient. You had to get lucky. And it made a huge impact on me for, you know, I had seen a lot of depictions of war and such in media. I had come across other games and whatnot that are trying to properly gamify it. But that level really had a lasting impact on me for just expressing how random, unreasonable, and horrendous war is. And I mean, still in an incredibly sanitized way. But just that frustration, that lack of, oh, you know, we're trying to make this something that you can win in one go, you just need to be good. No, you can just roll like crap. That had a huge impact on me. And that genuinely significantly changed how I interpreted a lot of the information that I got out of my history classes. It gave me a much more... because video games are an interactive medium, and it gave me frustration rather than, you know, the realistic, you know, long-lasting trauma or death. But it gave me at least some strong emotion to try and map onto some of these things that we were hearing about people having to endure. So yeah, it's tough. I don't know if there is any firm categorization, but I still want to think about what we can do to talk about games and their utility as interactive mediums. Yeah, so Lingo communicated to me that the English language is way more mind-bendy than you even thought. Fair enough. How much complexity you can get from a system with almost nothing other than words on colored boxes. True. Yeah, like, simplicity of game design is something, I guess that is something I still like to get out. Because I'm very enamored by very simple game pieces like cards and dice. I always love thinking about those. I've never actually sat down and fully constructed a game from scratch on those, but I love that so many games have been made with a deck of 52 pieces of paper that have, you know, 52 factorial combinations, which is a pretty inconceivably large number of them. Same thing with dice, you know, I love how many things that just basic randomization has been used for. That's so cool. But yeah, so yeah, things that you can do with basically words on a piece of paper in the video game form on boxes. A lot of visual novels exist. True. Legit, you can learn so much from games. There are games that teach you programming, and people learn about real-world physics from Kerbal Space Program. Certainly. And that's anyone who is still saying, like, oh, games are useless, right? Games are just a waste of time. F off. There are some games that you can engage with in ways that are not useful. If I was sitting here playing more Slay the Spire instead of streaming, and I was just, you know, going for a silent poison build so that I can go, ooh, number big, Yeah, no. I'm not getting anything out of that other than emotional regulation, and even that very poorly because it's random, so it's intermittent reward, which is an insidious way. Slay the Spire is great. I love Slay the Spire, but I spent a lot of time on it, literally just trying to basically repeat high runs. Not trying to win, not trying to scrappily utilize every resource that I can to get where I'm trying to go, but to see number get big. Shivs all the way. I often go Shiv, but some of my biggest builds have been Poison, which are awesome. Got A18 done on Silent yesterday? Sick! Awesome. But, you know, I at least personally find it a very easy game to consume vapidly. It's one that it is one where I find it very easy to slip into non-thinking. Which I don't think is an inherently bad thing, right? Sometimes you need to be able to just not think about what's going on in life, right? That is not a bad thing. I want to be clear that I'm not making a complaint. But when you are using it as a replacement for other things, which is what I was doing, right? Instead of actually engaging with it, instead of actually living, I was using it as a way to basically pass through life, allow life to happen to me. Which is not great. But you can absolutely sit there and have some really good interaction with it. I actually, at one point, I had a personality psych project where, and even if the game is vapid entertainment, you can still use it to connect with people. 100%! And that's why, like, socializing, right? Socializing is a huge aspect of games. They're a lovely, structured way to do stuff, or even just play alongside people. Parallel play, yo. 100%. Yeah, it's tough to say that something has no utility. I mean, the rhetoric that sometimes gets used, I know there's a lot of discussions over, but video games are a tool, right? So it is ultimately dependent on how you interact with them and how you use that tool. Also, yo, room done. Hell yeah. Oh, is Streak not working? Hold up, one moment. Let me see if StreamerBot's functioning. Oh no. StreamerBot. Oh, you know why StreamerBot isn't working? You'll never believe this. Someone may have forgotten to open StreamerBot after a week of not streaming. So let's get that one going. There we go. Someone, don't know who, not pointing any fingers, but potentially this could have happened. Because Stake is through Nightbot rather than StreamerBot. Because StreamerBot can locally track stream streaks, and since that wasn't getting tested on my channel, doesn't have stream streaks enabled because that feature hasn't been tested on it. So using StreamerBot to track those locally. Nightbot does not have that feature. Oh, I was going to say, Slay the Spire. I think I mentioned that I've done a lot with personality psych. And there was a project I did at one point. I like to write small essays to explain thoughts I have to friends. But one of the things that I did was I remember reading an article about how we were doing a unit on epigenetics and how basically environment can actually influence like genetics, and then it got into broader conversations because one of the like crucial ideas of psychology that's been debated ad nauseum is nature versus nurture, and the answer is both. They cover different things and affect different things to different degrees. Usually it's a mix. But it was talking about how basically you need to respond to things in the environment, but then how you respond to things in the environment shapes the environment and how you need to respond to it. And I'd read an article about how in Slay the Spire you can sort of like measure different aspects of your deck, like sustain, like scaling, stuff like that, burst. and sort of in like a 5-axis thing. And funnily enough, in personality psychology, the current big model for English-speaking countries, to be clear, is the Big Five personality, the Big Five personality test, or Big Five personality traits. And I sort of used that as a way to like draw a parallel between these articles because it was very fascinating. I forget a fair bit of that. I should go back to find it. But yeah, that was something that Slay the Spire, engaging with it and thinking about how your deck needs to respond to the environment helped me have a sort of better feel for basically how brains interact with their environment. There we go. Which is super interesting. This is one of the conversations I find hard to have. I think putting things into the box of art or not is reducing the value. It's inherently making people consider if something deserves love before they decide for themselves if they love something. And it's really tough, absolutely, because it's not. I don't so much want to like dictate whether something is art or not, but it's a very intangible thing. But it's sorry about that. I need to send a friend a reminder to drop off their pug sitting keys. I set an alarm because Johann is often a calendar function for friends. Reminder about pug keys. Well, hey, and I would love keys to access pugs. Yeah, Sigma said that he's gonna do some March today. No. But yeah, no, because you're right. I don't want to try and dictate what is or is not art. That's kind of an important aspect of intellectual freedom, is my definition of art can be very different from other people's definition. Whoop, there we go. But it still feels like there are still different qualities and different things that games sort of excel at and what they're trying to do. And I think that coming up with language to be able to better describe that so that we can sort of look at where they have the most utility, where they shine. Because, like, yes, I don't want to determine what is or is not art. I look at a pile of bricks, cleverly arranged to look like a pile of bricks, and say, no, not art. That's my opinion. That said, if the person, is able to sell that for like 9,000 USD, good for them. Maybe I should be an artist. It's just because I don't view it as art does not mean that it is not in some very real way. But I think it's still, you still can look at art and go, oh, like that's impressionist, that's abstract, that's classical Renaissance. I'm not actually great with art categorization. But even things like with books, you've got genre, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, etc. And we've got the genre classification for games, right? But how do I phrase this? It's just, a lot of them are very broad and require combination, right? It requires a combination of things to describe, like Celeste, right? Celeste is a platform, but it's also got some like interesting storytelling beats, and it's also got a slight puzzly aspect. You can't lump it into just one thing. So the genre tags, whereas books and movies usually fairly strongly fall into like one, maybe two. Video games, at least the language that we've currently got to describe it, typically fall into a number of pockets. But there are still, when it comes to like utility, I think there are some much broader buckets that could be used more effectively, but I still don't know what they are. So maybe that's just one of those things where you stare at something and you go, there's got to be a better way to do this, and there isn't, but it's something I'm going to keep mulling over. I feel like there's some kind of difference between that kind of art and the rest of art. Some art seems to be a lot about the person making it. This is true. Although I did see something that I really loved, a piece of that, like, quote-unquote modern art, where it was just a canvas that said, someone had literally just painted the words on, in quotes, "I could do that," and under that, "but you didn't." That is, I think, the first piece of, like, quote-unquote modern art that has really spoken to me of, you're right, I dismiss a lot of this because I go, you know, that's, what's the point of it? What's the message? That one hit me over the head with the message, and I went, you know what? Fair play. I could have done that, but I didn't. And there's value to that. There are people who are choosing to push boundaries and whatnot, which is really cool. And that's, yeah, there's sometimes, there's a lot of, like, there's things going on under the hood. I was seeing something also about, like, a painting that was just a solid color. And I would have looked at that and gone like, oh yeah, great. It was because the person had engineered a new color, and so they made a painting as a way of displaying that. I didn't make a new color. I didn't know that. It requires sort of, what's the word? Is it exegesis? Is that the, I need to look that up. But it requires sort of outside knowledge to make it work, which I really enjoy in certain mediums, but I don't tend to enjoy in, like, visual art. Burb, try not to kill Madeline challenge. Impossible. True. There's other art would stand on its own even if it wasn't made by famous art. There's some that is sort of self-contained, there's some that requires that, like, additional information. Wasn't the person's name Danyar? Possibly? I do not remember it super well. In fairness, this is something I saw in passing. Art doesn't have to have meaning. Art doesn't have to tell a story, and art doesn't have to be in a specific medium. A cave painting depicting Citizen Kane is equally art than the original. Feels like people said games weren't art, and people that disagree are trying to convince people whose opinions mean nothing. This is also fair, but I will argue, just because those people have made a fairly closed-minded decision, their opinion does matter because they're the people who oftentimes are. Oh, great new colors, Danny R. It's a lingo inside joke. Gotcha. But even if people are somewhat dismissive and not giving it perhaps as much consideration as they should, their opinions still matter because they are part of the consumers of art, and oftentimes people, you know, when it comes to art, oftentimes you can get by with, I needed that stamina. But, like, when it comes to, like, carrying video games in libraries, which some of them do now, you need to make an argument for it, because the people who dismiss it are paying taxes and have a say in that, and will probably pay less taxes if they think that those taxes are not being used effectively, because they are publicly funded. So it's something that I still think is worthy of consideration, and, you know, I am someone who enjoys having earnest conversations with people who disagree. Because I think there is a lot of value in that, even if they are people who I find personally disagreeable, or I don't think I'm going to change their mind, but if nothing else, it teaches me a little bit more about how some of these people think, so that if I ever do come across someone who I think is legitimately having a conversation in good faith, I am more likely to be able to actually understand their perspective. Reason to put games in libraries, because gaming companies don't care about preservation or actively fighting against it much of the time. True. But that also requires people to agree that it is worthy of preservation. And there are a lot of people who do not see it as such. And, you know, we've seen, like, in education, we've seen more games sort of gain acceptance as educational tools, but a lot of them are really basic and kind of talk down to people. Which, in fairness, is kind of how I feel about the public education system in general, and part of why I think I could actually make an interesting teacher, if nothing else. But yeah, and whereas there are so many games that teach so many things I think can be added into curricula usefully if we expand our biases out of it. Just don't think art is a useful word. Like, I don't think it's possible to define it without having a definition that isn't at minimum dancing around piece of media that deserves to be considered. No, and art is a very overly broad concept. I think we've, funnily enough, Sorbet, I think we've literally had this conversation, like, almost verbatim while playing Jump King. Because art is fundamentally subjective, and is one of those words that people try to come to consensus on, but it kind of, I have thought about this so hard. I'm still trying to think about it because we've got Alyssa in chat is colorblind and can't, differentiate the color red from other ones. So it's sort of in grayscale. And I have been thinking so hard how can I describe the quality of red? It's a really interesting challenge to try to explain a color to someone who does not have that color in their repertoire. I'm still thinking about it. I still want to find a way to crack it, but color is ultimately subjective. We can just agree that we're all seeing the same thing. Art doesn't even have that, like, oh, well, there's consistency between these things, but it is something that is also, what we see in a piece of art is so fundamentally subjective. The best we can do is kind of agree, well, someone made it and called it art. I think that's probably why there's so much argument about art. Way too broad. 100%. It's still interesting, because it's interesting to try to communicate a subjective experience and try to come up with some sort of, like, shared context for it, but self-preservation companies don't have to compete against old games and can just keep selling us the same stuff. Yeah, I am about to, one of these days, I'm going to be buying Age of Empires 3 for the 3rd time, because I had it on disc, for a while, and then, some friends got it on Steam to play with me. Those versions could not play together, so I had to get it on Steam. Not the least of which also because, my laptop doesn't have a CD drive anymore. And Age of Empires 3 on Steam does not do multiplayer with the definitive edition which has come out, which legitimately they added some content and it has more stable multiplayer and whatnot, but god damn it, I might have to buy the same game for the 3rd time. Which, I keep getting to the stamina crystal and then dashing to save it. I need to work on that one a bit more. When you lump so many different things together into a single term art, calling something art starts to lose its significance. Yep, we see that happen with a lot of them. I don't know, I just don't like when people put things in boxes too much, especially when it's a word with such strong connotations to people. I don't like when people think that the boxes they put things into are absolute. I like when people do put things into boxes because it reveals a lot of information about how they perceive something. And that, I'm not a very religious person, but, I love, my school, I think, was ostensibly some form of Protestant denomination. I took a number of religion classes, including one with a lovely rabbi. And the way he described, like, his perception, because, like, God is something that even within an organized religion there's a lot of different ways of perceiving. I believe, I can't remember the exact phrasing, this sucks because I love it and my brain, but it was something to the effect of, the more you try to put God in a box, the more he surprises you by not fitting. And to me, that's kind of the crux of it, is I am surprised and entertained and learn things by watching people try to cram things into boxes, by watching myself try to cram things into boxes and finding out it does not fit. The box is not sufficient to contain these things. But it helps me learn more about it in the process of trying to fit it into something that it doesn't fit into. I like comparisons. I don't like boxes. My point here is that it feels pretentious, but I fear I'm by far the most pretentious sounding. No. I think I get what you're saying. If I understand it correctly, and please correct me if I don't, you enjoy the comparison. You enjoy looking at two things and seeing how they're similar and how they're different. But when you try to categorize them in a firm way of this is a piece of art and this isn't art, that is something that you don't like, because it's fundamentally limiting if you try to conceive of them as, here is this label and it must adhere to this label, rather than, well, here's the best label that I can find for this thing, maybe, but it's got a lot of other stuff around it. It's the box gets in the way of seeing new things. I'll be back after I finish. I guess we'll see if I get a new PB. Yeah, 100%. I don't think I've quite had sub 20. I need to, my goal is to get that end of I'm sorry, pardon? Why? We can... Why does that exist? But it only happens if you go to the left? Oh, that's so strange. Because if you do that, you just die instantly. But if you go on the left... That's so weird. Camera move trigger doesn't go all the way over. Yeah. That's fascinating. I wonder why there even is a camera move trigger there, because it doesn't look like there's stuff. I don't categorize things. I feel the same about genres of games. They're meant to be arrows vaguely pointing in the right direction. People arguing if a genre fits is pointless because any definition you give will exclude things that should be included by most accounts and include some that shouldn't. Yeah, you didn't know that was the thing? Yay! I love finding new ways to break stuff. So you sound like you take a very descriptivist approach to the world, which I think is by and large better, right? Like, I was actually, there was a, I forget the exact name of the paper, but it was someone by the last name of Sharkey, and I think it was called like the death of ontology. Ontology being like the categorization of things. And he is someone who's big in libraries, which is why I was reading. And his argument is basically, you know, as neat as I keep doing that. There we go. And then I mucked it up. Libraries categorize things, right? And archives do as well. Problem is, I'm on the spectrum and boxes are very helpful for autism. Well, no, and that's... Humans fundamentally rely on heuristics, right? Like, to get through life, if you actually considered everything in its entirety, you would be overwhelmed. That's why we have stereotypes, and I'm not saying like, oh, that makes it okay. Stereotypes are useful for automating interactions. There are a lot of times where they are useful. Like, this is how I guess stereotype has been used as a much like narrower thing to apply to like people or things, but we apply these heuristics to like, this is how my breakfast works. Or if I'm a cashier and a customer comes to the counter, they are a customer, and so I expect them to provide me with goods that I will give them, or they will provide goods that I register. I will tell them how much money, they give me the money, and then I give it back to them. We form these patterns. Sometimes they break it though, because sometimes it's not a customer. Or maybe the customer is, you know, like independent contractor who's doing the shopping. And it trips things up. Maybe they just want someone to talk to, and so you're trying to do the transaction and they're talking ad nauseum. And so it's something where it's very, very useful to have those in those situations. But we tend to make them way broader than they should be, because we go, oh, well, I interacted with someone from X ethnic group, and so that's how it works. No, that's not. But we need to simplify things to be able to get through life. Because, I mean, if you actually spend your life considering every individual person as an individual, oh my god. Hey, welcome in, AWF. How's it going? I mean, like, I like doing that sometimes, of sitting there and watching cars go by and trying to see how many people are in that car and trying to actually process that little slice that I'm seeing them in. Where they're going, what they're doing, what they're thinking about at the moment, their hopes and dreams, what they had for breakfast. Assumptions should never be anything more than starting conditions, and that I agree with. And that's, they are very useful as an initial starting point. And then you need to be open to working from there. And that's, I think, genuinely the biggest problem with stereotyping. It's, I guess, what I would generally consider... See, language is tough, because I'm like... Generally, the way I parse it is I do not have as much of a problem with stereotyping as I have a problem with bigotry, right? bigotry is, again, one of those things that gets tough to firmly define, but I in a lot of ways, I think that you can sort of chalk bigotry up to it's the refusal to allow things to break the mold. I also find this very hard to articulate. Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's the beauty of this though, and I genuinely think a lot of times part of why you see so much conflict is because it turns out humans aren't psychic, and even if they want the same things, sometimes it's really hard to express what that thing is. But yeah, no, it is in a lot of ways, I think it comes up to, I think it's really useful to have stereotypes, I think it's really useful to have categories and try to fit things into them, because in the process, you learn where it doesn't fit, and then you have to expand and redefine. I think we're just using different way. When I'm talking about a box, I see it as useful, but I think you see the box as very firm when I'm talking about it. But I think similar things for like labeling is how you're sort of conceptualizing. I can put the label on, but the label is one part of many for trying to understand the thing. It's different analogies, but ultimately, it's interesting to try to conceptualize what something is, or grander characteristics, or labels of it, and figure out how those don't work so that you can understand more about what that label is and what the thing you're labeling is. Bigotry comes from humans needing to feel part of the in-group. Can't have an in us without a them, and them are bad. Them is always bad because them is not us. Yep. 100%. Because yeah, that's people like to be the inside penguins. And yeah, so it's like if someone makes some assumptions, I'm intentionally using things that are lighter because it can still be very problematic, and I understand that I'm not part of groups that are sometimes stereotyped in ways that are very exhausting. So take it all with a grain of salt. This is my perspective of someone who has a much lower stake. But like if someone goes, oh, well, you do math and science and you do video games and so on and so forth, I have been stereotyped as smart a lot of times with a lot of associated sort of assumptions, right? Because I'm smart. Oh, so I must know how to do X, Y, or Z thing, or this thing must be easy for me. Turns out I'm secretly actually a pretty big idiot. And it has certainly led to some confusion and frustration in situations. Sorry, focusing up a little bit. But as long as people are willing to have a conversation with me about who I am, if they're making some of those assumptions so that I can adjust it and we can actually move forward, that's great. But if someone refuses to believe, well, you're smart, so you must know how to do this thing, or you're smart, so you're doing this thing to me, that makes it really tough. That makes it nearly impossible. I guess to me that's sort of the like, if someone wants to assume I'm smart and they have certain preconceived notions, that's fine, so long as they can be flexible with them. When they're inflexible, that's when it starts to be sort of problematic, and that's very loosely how I look at the difference between stereotyping versus bigotry. Because again, we need heuristics to get through life. We just tend to really over-apply and over-fit them. And it's very problematic when we do. No complex idea can be expressed with words that have strict definitions. You have to use enough words that point in the same direction and hope that everyone else can triangulate. Yep. Marshall Marsh. What? I guess Marshall Marsh the bosses. But yeah, it's fascinating. It is fascinating to think about how people interact and how we. But going back to the video game aspect, it is something where I think I feel confident that we can come up with roughly functional words to help communicate the idea of what games are good at communicating, what sort of benefit they can render to people for the sake of being able to help convince people and onboard people with, hey, this is a thing that would be good to use for education or to preserve. And there will still be value judgments within that, surely. People are going to disagree on what is worthy, what falls into those exactly, but being able to, with a little more, when we say, hey, video games can be educational, so that we can go, look, they can be. But when you're pointing to Fortnite, you need to also be considering this over here. You need to be considering Undertale and Night Influence. You need to be considering things like Celeste, which sort of exist in this like little between. Coming up with some language to help people understand how those things are different. Because we talked about this a little bit previously, but like I was one of those folks who really struggled with the concept of sex versus gender for a while, because no one sat down and explained to me that they were being used to mean different things. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, my gender is a much more like, I don't have a strong personal identification with stuff. The few times I do, it tends to be a little more on the femme side, but like for me, it's not as much of a huge deal. But when when I first started hearing about it, I had always heard sex used, or gender used euphemistically for sex, right? And I think a lot of people were used to that. I still know people where that was what did it for them. They were people who were very, like, not chill with a lot of the gender aspects of LGBTQ communities. And there are still some that stumble on different blocks, like, pronouns and such sometimes are difficult because, like, they're not used to the concept of, like, the singular they, them. But there are a lot of people where I found it literally just being able to have the language to go, no, okay, see, we've gotten used to using gender as a stand-in for biological sex because people don't want to say the word sex. But we're using that. You can articulate this. Well, yeah, that's something that my point in bringing that up is I was someone who struggled with it a lot just on the basis of people were using words and expecting me to know the definitions, but I didn't. And having words that people can actually agree on to parse things out can really make changes go through. What, you don't want me to just like step over to the left, Nobo? I mean, look, there's this really enticing gap down at the bottom. No. Sex? No, I'm single. Ayo. Yeah, I advanced a remake of Rhythm Doctor level. In the process, I learned how to mess with the Kaleidoscope background. It's background. Oh, sick! Nice! The Dust Bunny elevator. Ayo! Fun fact, singular they is older than singular you. Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like, it's something that's been used. And the thing is, a lot of English speakers use the singular they just don't recognize it? I mean, like, I've been, at least for the time that I've been growing up, I was basically taught it was grammatically correct to... I was never taught the he/she for, like, person of indeterminate gender. I was always taught they. And the thing is, I know that the he/she was standard in a lot of things I interacted with at the time. So I don't know why it ended up that way. But like, so, stuff like that is like, yeah, and that is generally accepted as like correct grammar, but it's still something where, weirdly enough, a lot of people that I have spoken to and tried to hash out, like, okay, here's why it's still reasonable to use like they or them to refer to a singular person, if as like a matter of respect. And they're like, but it's grammatically wrong. It's like, it's not. It changes, but also it's been around a while. But I mean, a lot of these people, I think, were also the people that grew up learning to like double space after a period. Which I don't know. It's just it's a very interesting thing, the things that people get hung up on. But I mean, that's talking about like prescriptivism versus descriptivism. Grammar tends to be very prescriptive when it's something that kind of developed. You double space after a period for a while, at least in the U.S. Yeah, it was considered proper to double space after a period. I say specifically the U.S. because I know that was a Strunk and White thing, which I know was used for a lot of like very American style guides. I don't know. I don't actually know about the style guides of. I have a sneaking suspicion that it was probably one that was adopted by most English language places, but I do not know for certain. Because it's tough. I'm trying to think back on my personal experience of interacting with folks, because I know that's a consistent thing with US folks I've spoken to. I don't know about like native UK and Aussie folks. But the thing is, there's a lot of times where one English speaking country will do one thing, and then other ones will pick up little aspects of it here and there and have like sort of like competing standards. Also arguing, correct English has always been used for bigotry. By correct is implied the English spoken by white academics. Yeah. Also, a big goal to keep tabbing out to type. Ayo. Basically just learned that you can make a custom method, aka code block, to change the color of the kaleidoscope, and it can look very sick when used properly, which is not what I'm doing, of course. Of course not. But yeah, no, I mean, that's controlling the language is like always a tool of those in power, right? And like on the one hand, I am someone, I fully admit, I get bothered when people use incorrect grammar. But usually I only really have an issue if it's something that affects my ability to understand what they're saying. Because on the one hand, controlling things and saying this is right or this is wrong is that's a form of gatekeeping that can be used to control how things are spoken about. That's why you'll note in a lot of politics, if you've got multiple perspectives on an issue, I want to be very careful about saying something, because it's also something people should not be as competitive about it. In any case, though, it's something where typically different perspectives on the same idea will use very different language surrounding the same concept, because they want the people, they want to control that language to control perceptions of it. Because, you know, if it sounds friendlier, yay. If it sounds less friendly, only correct people if it matters. I'll correct my friend if they're trying to email their boss, not if they're messaging me, unless I feel like being no, and that's, like, yeah, like, texting is a much more, I would consider it like a much more expressive, an expressive medium. I don't typically correct people on grammar in messaging unless it is something where the clarity has legitimately been harmed, right? Because having standards that people can agree upon, that's oftentimes, I find, the bulk of a conversation, usually to me, seems like it's kind of about establishing shared language. Hey, like every one of your messages. No, and that's, yeah, like that. But a lot of times that's more like typos. But yeah, like there's a lot of times where it's like, it's a little tough to read Pug's messages. I've seen people where they struggle with grammar rather than just like the keyboard hating them. Or it's just grammatically, it's so difficult to parse it. They can read it and understand it because they know the thought they're trying to communicate, but if they don't write it in a way that is conducive with how I parse language, you know, and there are things that I parse better than others, right? There are ways that I would like language to be customized to meet me, but I understand, here's sort of the general rules we've agreed upon, and then we can finesse it to get down. Nothing is correct always. Everything is arbitrary. Existence is fake. Chaos, the only eternal existence. Anarchy will unite us. Oh, they added a Halloween rhythm doctor? Oh, sick! New RD level just dropped. Nice! Got a bank holiday of 4 days starting now. Wednesday, Friday, Friday day? Ugh, that's a weird one to try and say. But yeah, no, it is useful to try to impose some order on a lot of things to make things flow more smoothly, but at the same time, yeah, it's if you adhere too strictly to it, it can get in the way of things. And that's you know, what, Aristotle's golden mean, right? You know, things tend to lie somewhere in the middle, because you need to have some structure so that people, if I can just use whatever words I want to express myself, and I have not established those beforehand, Reupload to do bop, I can't expect you, in any sense of reason, understand what I said. And And that's obviously an extreme example, but I mean, we need to agree, we need to have dictionaries, we need to have some agreement on stuff. Now, things can change. Language can morph if enough people start using a word in a different way. For example, slay. You know, it's saying that that's wrong? Obviously, you said be-do bop do. Yeah, but what I was really saying there is I love y'all. It's really great to, you know, be able to hang out. You can use literally any sounds to express how you feel. That's fine as hell. The problem is expectations. Right, no, and that's... You can't expect other people to understand that. So having shared information, having shared standards for the sake of actual communication taking place is great. But you need to allow those to shift and change, because if enough people are using them in one way, you know, now, and there are some things I'll be a little nitpicky about. For example, that's so Nusk of you. Well, it's there have been a couple of times where I've come across in legal documents like fairly common misspellings. And, you know, it's funny because I know that English used to be very inconsistent as a language. It was just sort of like, yeah, get in the ballpark and we'll see if we can understand. I've done transcription for some of those older documents. It's miserable. Because that's, the U.S. National Park Service right now has some words. It's either Revolutionary or American Civil War pension records, which are really interesting because a lot of them are being claimed by people, by like descendants and whatnot. It gets into some interesting legal stuff and is quite useful for fleshing out some genealogical evidence. So I've been trying to tinker with those. Oh, amazing! Been trying to tinker with those a little bit. The cursive is the first hurdle because, dear God, is that a mess. But on top of that, sometimes they're using abbreviations and whatnot that have fallen out of favor, or they're spelling words how they think they're supposed to sound. But no, I've seen in legal documents, I've seen things like, what's a good one? Like insure, like to insure, to provide insurance for something. I will ensure that gets done. Versus, nope, see, even I mucked that up saying it. I mean, that's, the words themselves are just confusing, but like, insure with an I versus ensure with an E. Like, to ensure something with an E is to guarantee, whereas to insure something with an I is to, like, provide insurance against. And so, like, to ensure our peace or whatnot, or to ensure that we have a good environment, they'll spell with like an I. And it's like that's a different word. That means something else. It's close enough that I can parse it, but that's one where I will stand on that, because that's something where those words do mean two different things, and if we start using them interchangeably because we have trouble parsing them, we lose a fair bit of information. I don't know what words to I mean, we could replace ensure with an E with guarantee and just like standardize that, and then like go. But like those are ones where there's some actual unique meaning, and even though they're tough, they are different. Perhaps we need different words, but that is something that, oh damn it, that is the type of thing where I will be a little more fussy about it, because it's like that does actually affect the ability for communication to work. New Halloween Rhythm Doctor level literally just dropped right now. It's okay, nothing too crazy. Still, that's awesome getting to see it like as it's happening. I still remember baking cookies when the Mountain Goats in League with Dragons album dropped, and I was so excited about that. So, boop, 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 boop. Ha 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 ha. Binoculars. Okay. That's a long room. Oh dear God. Um, she insured her car. He ensured he would go to the store. Yes, no, exactly. So yeah, it's like I'll get a little fussy about language in general, but even then, that mistake is fine in some contexts. In some contexts, the only time using words needs strict definitions is when using them to create strict rules which themselves will always be applied to complicated situations anyway. True. But like that is the type of thing where I am a little more fussy about it. While it's fine in most contexts, because we can be forgiving and understand that, it's still something where that slippage can create a lot of confusion down the line. I see it as something where it is something to be gently corrected, because it is something where we currently do not have a solution in place. That said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we let that stuff happen and we just trust that we will eventually come up with a solution to that. Maybe I'm wrong for trying to prevent that drift of it basically, linguistic Darwinism, if we actually need those to be separated, if we actually need two separate words for that, we'll come up with a solution once the signals get mixed. Maybe. So maybe I am in the wrong on it, but it is still something where I will probably continue to try and like prevent that kind of muddling. But the doctor now mutes when you tab out of it. Huh. Intriguing. Oh, okay. Slightly more grumpy old Johan story. So I've mentioned I've got a page job, so I'm working at a public library, and I was terrified yesterday because I just quietly heard in one of the sections someone like whispering, chanting, "Skippity, skippity, skippity, Ohio, Whistler," and just like repeating various combinations of that. I was not having a good time with that. And thank you for the hydrate, Robert. Not having a fantastic time with that. It's just kind of a terrifying thing to hear quietly. I eventually figured out when the chanting stopped, it was a kid who was like doing tutoring with what I'm guessing was their dad. And they were apparently just saying that to annoy the dad as protest, because I later heard like, when am I ever going to use this? Like, what does that matter? Which I'm like, if only I wish I could step in as someone who enjoys tutoring, because I guarantee you I could come up with some genuine use cases for whatever they were teaching. But man, that was just, cool. It's weirdly terrifying to hear what Gen Alpha or whatever, Gen Alpha slang being whisper chanted, and you can't pinpoint the source. Just think that the problem is never the mistake. It's the mistake happened there. Like, if you start dosing off, there's no real issue. If you do that while driving, that's... No, and the context is absolutely important. I do agree with that. It's still on you, but I don't care that you dozed off. I care that you weren't careful. No, it's, context, absolutely. But I do think that there are sometimes... I think the fact that people frequently make mistakes along those lines indicates that there's a problem with how our language has developed, and I think that there should be a... I think that's something that's usually an indication of language needs to evolve there to prevent signal loss. But at the same time, even if it's fine in that context, I think there is still a problem of that happening, and if that gets reinforced, because that contributes to signal loss in other contexts. And I guess it's one of those, I guess for me, where I sort of fall on it, on like the gentleness, is I'm not going to tell someone, oh, hey, you need to fix that. I will say, hey, like, just a heads up, that those are different, right? And if they say, I don't care, they're allowed to not care. I guess I guess I had not fully considered that, but a lot of times I know that there are things that I have done with language where I did not understand the difference, and I hate people not pointing out that my signal is being lost. a lot of times that's on, like, pronunciation. Like, wow, why can't I think of a single one right now? It's the word... Oh, there we go. Epitome. For the longest time, I thought epitome was epitome. And no one corrected me on that for years. For years. So I was going around, and people had no clue what I was saying about epitome, till finally someone else who had made a similar mistake was like, E-P-I-T-O-M-E? I went, yeah, epitome. Epitome. That's epitome. Because I always thought epitome was just one of those words. I'm like, oh, I've never seen that written, but it must be like E-P-I-D-E-M-Y. I think is how I thought epitome was spelled. And I was like, oh, this has saved me a lot of grief, knowing that these are the same thing. So I guess there is like a decent chunk of that in there for me. It's like, it's if people want to mix them and that's a conscious choice, awesome. It doesn't mean that I necessarily need to understand them, but like people are allowed to make that conscious choice, right? I'm not going to try, I guess, and enforce it, but I hate when people make those mistakes and they are not aware of it. I will need to think on that a little bit. That is an aspect of it that I had not fully considered when I was talking about it. 3 Blue 1 Brown did a whole TED talk on when will I ever use this. Oh shoot, I'll need to watch that. It's very funny. So I do sort of like high school graduate equivalency in the US. That's like GED. But that's what I've frequently heard to it referred to as. So I do tutoring for like at-risk youth who are trying to get that so that they can get employed for things that require a high school or equivalent diploma. And it's really interesting tutoring a variety of different people. This is the second person that I've worked with that I would say like long-term. Had a couple of like shorter-term, more intensive tutoring sessions when I was doing some stuff in person. But it's really interesting because different people respond well to different styles. First guy I was tutoring, fantastic for just, here's how this works, let's do some math to sort of prove it to you, because he had a pretty good grip of the like basic math itself, and understood the utility. So it was, a lot of it was just sort of like, let's throw a couple of different ways of talking about the math itself and try and find some structures that your brain moves with more easily, because it turns out the ways that we're taught to do things in school tend to be, you know, we're taught to do things but not why we do things. And so if the how we're taught doesn't quite work for how our brain operates, sometimes we need to come up with little tricks to like help things out. If, for example, whoa, that was so close. Like, you know, if long division, you forget like the multiplication stuff. There's things that you can do to help out with that, like carrying numbers and so on and so forth. I've tried to come up with some of that stuff. All right, no worries. But what I found actually works really well, the guy I'm currently working with, very much has the like, well, when am I going to use this? And I've been very honest with him that a lot of the stuff we're doing, you are going to use on the test, and that's it. Now, some of it does have real life applications. I try and I try to explain those. But I throw in a lot of things where it's like, you yourself will not necessarily use this now. But here is what you can. It was fun. It was you were here for a while, indeed. Thank you for hanging out. I loved the memes. It was good chatting. But fare thee well, Pug. Thank you for dropping by. It was good getting to vibe. Bye-bye. So 90% of the time the answer to when will I use this is never, but that's because it's a question that misses the point. Bye. No, and the thing is, I try and be clear with people and answer that, but then I also provide, here are situations where people have used that. And here's why I think those situations were super cool. And with the current guy, that's working fantastically. because it's showing him that there are uses for it, and it's connecting to things that he does care about. So even if he's never going to be the person doing that math, he understands why this is potentially useful to know. And I love that. I love having so much weird little esoteric knowledge to go, well, look, this is useful if you're ever on this particular game show. Why do I need to learn this? And there's reasons for it other than being useful in your daily life. Well, no, and that's a lot of times the answer is it gets you through this test. This will make it easier to learn another concept that you will use in daily life, or you won't, but it's on the test. Part 2. Yeah, and also, yeah, that was a little reductionist and flip. But no, it's also, there's a lot of times where there's stuff that you won't use in daily life, but you'll still use in life. But no, like currently, I realized working with them that they had not covered. They didn't know their times table. They knew like some of them, but like they don't know 0 through 0 or 0 times 0 up to 12 times 12. And I'm like, it's you can use a calculator. You're not going to be ever, nowadays when you carry a phone in your pocket, you're not going to be caught without a calculator, right? But it's really inconvenient if for every like conceptual demonstration of a math problem, if I need to wait for you to put stuff into your calculator. That's a lot of the ways that we solve things by hand are basically just decomposing them into times table problems. And so I'm currently working with him to learn the times table. I'm trying to make it more a little easier, but I'm so happy because he's bought into it, because I've been honest with him. I'm not trying to be like, oh no, you are not going to use. If you've got a calculator and you prefer the calculator, you don't need to know mental math. But it's going to save us so much time in this learning process. So let's sit down, let's take some time, let's invest some time up front so that we can save more time down. But yeah, I think being honest with people about when they're going to use knowledge is very important. Yeah, I'm so proud of myself today. Today was the physics exam, and in the very first question, the teacher basically said, yeah, Lamau, the logic, for this logic reasoning, we've never done in class, lol, and you nailed it! Most beautiful math you've ever done? That's awesome! Problem solving the stuff, even when the teacher hasn't told you exactly how that one is supposed to go. That's awesome! Big claps, no, though. That's super cool. Being able to actually problem solve, very useful skill. I actually, my physics teacher was great because he was focused on trying to teach us how to problem solve. And so many kids complained because he didn't just like tell us how to do the thing, he told us why the thing works. Which I loved, and everyone else hated because they just wanted the formulas to plug in. Anyways, Igma's playing Marching, you want to see? Absolutely, let me know how that goes. I wish I could be watching. That's the thing I'm finding also with streaming midday during the days that I've got is I want to watch the other people that we've done cool stuff with. Like, I enjoy the streaming, but also I want to see them, and it's the only time I can. Terrible, really. You state math. Once you've covered enough of the basics, you can very quickly get to the point where you're learning things that are genuinely fascinating. It's just that math takes way more than most other topics to even have a foundation to seed architect. True. Although I do find it funny because a lot of it, you just kind of, if you know like mental math and like fractions, or in fairness, a lot of what I really find interesting is like probability and statistics applications. So like if you know fractions, you've kind of got the foundation for a lot of really interesting stuff already down. But it's I think it is something that has both more and less requirements for understanding stuff. Something that I did not realize, but has been a consistent with all of the folks I've worked with, something that's been a fairly consistent struggle is graphs and like tables. Basically different ways of representing information. which I hadn't realized because I'd gotten so used to those, especially from like science classes, and that has been a huge wake up call for me. That like those click very easily for me, but for a lot of folks it doesn't. But yeah, so that's one I'm still also thinking a lot about. Negatives have also been very interesting because I like to try and figure out like examples that people can actually relate stuff to. There's not a whole lot of negatives that you actually work with in your daily life, because like antimatter isn't really a, you know, that's not a super common experience for people. Closest I've gotten is debt, which is still funny because it's all, you know, kind of fundamentally made up anyway. But it's the closest I've gotten, and it seems to work. But goddamn, I wish there was something better for negatives. Hell yeah. Most people don't see any beautiful math, and they study it from childhood to late teenage years. Yep, and there's just nothing there. Boop, boop, boop. Sorry, one moment. I may scream a little, because apparently we're testing the heating system. And it's the first one of the year, so I may get very startled. Okay, sorry. But yeah, no. Oh, sick. Okay. Yeah, no, math has a lot of very cool stuff, but it's okay. Okay. But yeah, it certainly is something that a lot of people don't really ever get to see how cool it is. I always use the example of earnings being negative cost, but not everyone finds it intuitive. Earnings being negative cost. Oh, gotcha. So treating your income as sort of the opposite of the things that you're spending. Yeah, I think that works. I do think, at least with a lot of the folks I've worked with, that would probably be more confusing to them, because then I think that would trip them up in the word problems. Because, typically speaking, earnings are represented as positive. And it is something where even when you explain the why of something, I often see people, if you're not careful with your examples, they sometimes, you know, overgeneralize. Going back to that little conversation about like people's tendency to like overfit and stereotype. But no, that's an interesting one. I will need to tinker with that, because that at the very least, I want to give that a try and see how that works with some of the posts. Because I had not considered actually doing that, because I guess I just sort of assumed that was going to go poorly, but I shouldn't. But yeah, no, like, just realizing that there's a lot of people that can look at a Cartesian coordinate graph and not understand what it's representing. Oh boy, that has really helped me understand that, man, I get why a lot of people don't necessarily go follow up on the research for, like, articles that they read. Hey, welcome in, Ollie. How's it going? Ollie? Yeah, Ollie. I think we talked about this. I keep trying to do it as more of like an O, but it's a soft, rounded A. What? Oshiro Oshairo. Reading 3 books at the same time tonight, and you've read a manga. Hot damn. Wait, when you say at the same time, like, you're alternating, or do you have, like, god-tier visual information processing ability? Alternating, okay. So, like, man, if you can do, like, the reptile eyes, where you can point them in different directions and process that, oh, I could be so much more productive. Get bored so fast I like alternating? I get that, yeah. I feel that powerfully. I keep trying to get through the MVCS novels, and I'm having trouble with those, but I'm wondering, while I was on break, I started reading, I it's like an edited compilation of letters from a Scottish emigrant to Canada in, I think it was 1832. I'm like, okay, so if I can alternate these well, maybe that will help out. Help me get further, because yeah, sometimes I need just like the difference. Not a Dutch book, an English book, History Is All You Left Me, and a kid's book, The Chocolate Factory one. Oh, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy? Because okay, Willy Wonka has chocolate, but is not. I've never understood. I don't think I've ever actually consumed. I don't know if I've actually consumed either of them, so I've never been clear. But I've always been under the impression that there's some sort of relationship between them, but I don't know for sure. It's called. Oh god, I don't remember what the double A is, but so Siaki. They are the same thing. Wait, they are? Is that what it is? Have I been confused and thought they were related stories, but they're literally just different names for the same one? Hold up. Is it called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but Willy Wonka is just the notable character that people recognize? Oh no. So Siaki. Siaki. Whoop. It's alright. I think there's a film by each name. That would do it. Okay. Man, you know, it's never something that's like bothered me enough to like go look at, but that honestly would make so much sense. Siaki is a Dutch name like from the past. Okay, so instead of Charlie, it's Siaki. But they're an adaptation of the same book called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This makes genuinely so much sense. So I was like, I thought they were similar, but maybe they're... No, okay. Sorbet? I mean, I will double check this, but I think you have just answered a almost lifelong question for me by Roald Dahl. Yeah. 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 Whoop. There we go. Come on, Mr. Oshiro. Boop. Aw. No. Pump. 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 Haha. No! I didn't drop down fast enough. The sadness. So we go. Whoop. Not like that. Oh man, I hate when like you do something reasonably well a few times and then your brain just loses what you've managed. Right, we need to grab onto the other side if we don't have our dash return. And right, he's the only culturally relevant author we have that's explored more stories than bigotry. What? What a crazy concept. What? Yeah, no, it is unfortunate how many times you like look into a historical figure and go, ah. And not even like, oh, it was a different time, but oh no, even when the landscape was shifting. The Dutch book I'm reading for a book club is in a genre that I think is called feel-good reality, and it's boring. They're talking about divorce and stuff. At least the book is not super feel-good reality. Look, I enjoy conceptually things that are like, oh, let's do just sort of like nice little cozy thing that's kind of grounded in what actually happens. I don't typically think feel good and divorce in the same sentence. But you know, I suppose. I hate romance, but in times like this, I'd rather have romance. That's fair. I adore queer romance. I am not super big on romance content, and that is partly because I am someone, one of my major like negative fixations is that I have not, like, engaged in a lot of dating. Not for a lack of desire, but because I am a consummate coward and have terrible luck with finding people of a compatible sexuality and gender identity that are interested in me. Or unfortunately, that I am interested in. I've been told on a number of occasions that it would be a lot easier for me if I was interested in dating them. Lesbian manga is your bad day cure so long as it's actually written by a woman. Ah, this is fair. Hey, little Inkbot, stop your stream today. Ain't that funny? Isn't it? I tried to send. You'll note the stream title. I'm like, go check out. Go see the wonderful solo dev of March doing cool stuff. And it's I believe Sigma is currently doing some March. So hopefully that's going well. Thanks for the title. I hope it got at least 1 or 2. Rated Sigma? Nice. Oh, I hit the stick so it went. That's feel good as in they're bonding with family. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Favorite genre? I have no clue on what it's called, but I have a few books I've given all 5 stars and they're great, but no clue what the genre is. That's, at least for shows, I think the thing I like is similar to that, like, sort of like feels good. I found in Japanese it's called iyashike, and a lot of the stuff that I consume in it is manga or anime. Well, hey, there we go. But stuff like Girls' Last Tour, Violet Evergarden, Aria the Animation, where it's just like, it's people living life and finding happiness in it. And I'm like, that's what I need. The Mimi, the foretold silver fillet, indeed. But yeah, so it's like, romance is one I'm like, it gets me fixated on some of my, like, personal sadness. So I tend to avoid it, but I will, if it's got other good stuff in it, like the MDCS, Modal Zushi, I'm like, sure, I will give it a shot. Threeby? Indeed! Welcome in, Tim. Threeb Part 3. Threeb Cubed. Oh wait, what if instead of going down there... Oh, what if I can Goomba Stomp Oshiro? There we go. The genre where something very twisted happens because of trauma, etc. Like you've reached Sam. Sam is a book where the girl gets all with her dead boyfriend. It's very interesting. Oh, okay. So it's sort of, it's the, like, what some could be conceivably like a supernatural story, but it's being explained away by, like, it's being explained through, like, trauma and such. Hey, I know you. Nah, no way. Romance, tragedy, or isekai is most of what I watch. Yes, one of those does stand out. But yeah, no, I can absolutely see why your thighs would hurt. With all I'm assuming that's from the pedals, Silver. But it sure looked like a physical workout. Store. Ah, yes, Ollie, the classic store. Instead of sorbet, storbet. Oh man, no, I have absolutely had that happen to me before, where someone will, like, walk up to me in real life and it's like, oh, hey, says my name, and I'm like, hello. And I have genuinely forgotten them, and this, I feel so terrible, but it's oftentimes the way I remember people. I'm terrible with names. The way I remember people is I remember, like, interactions I've had with them, and if I accumulate enough, and a lot of times it's just like people who have been, like, in a class. And if you can't tell by the fact that I stream, I am someone who sometimes gets a little goofy. So I apparently stand out a little bit, in a lot of places. I still think one of the most, like, intimidating compliments I've received was a friend telling me that more people know me than I realize. Which is, like, very ominous positivity, but no, apparently I was some sort of campus cryptid at my university. What? But where was I going? Oh yeah, but yeah, so like apparently the person who walked around with a okay, sorry. Brief story time. So my college was one where like they encouraged people to live on campus, and they had a lot of what were called like residence life activities. And so I signed up because I'm like, so you mean you'll pay me money to come up with goofy things to socialize with people? I'll do this. I did I ran a a like coat of arms. Here I was really into like coats of arms at the time, so I'm like, oh, I'll get some like good information packets and give like a brief presentation on how heraldry is assembled. So it's like briefly educational, and then print out a number of like blank shields for people to do some drawing on, and then we'll like hang them up. It was super fun. It was great. I did a number of things like that. Used it to like buy pumpkins in October for doing some pumpkin carving. However, I felt very, very awkward because I was the only person from my my hall of dorms that was interested in like actively participating in the residence life like decision stuff. And I am not someone who should be given any form of absolute power. So I need something to temper it. I need a second voice. So I folded a post-it note into a little finger puppet, drew a face on it, and named him Steve, and I signed him into all of the meetings, and also included his vote. It became a somewhat, like, it was Steve was a recognized member of the Residence Life Association for a while, and apparently, who would have guessed that walking around with a finger puppet, and once per week wearing a, like, bright purple utilikilt would get you somehow recognized by other people. Apparently I made some sort of impression. Which I enjoyed doing those things, but I was absolutely mortified that people actually paid attention to them. I did not enjoy the consequences of people recognizing me. Story doesn't have to be supernatural, but sometimes people take these big leaps and do crazy stuff because of their fears or traumas. That must be a genre rift. It falls under young adult, I guess. Yeah. Halloween isn't very big in the Netherlands, but I'm knocking on doors with your niece, and they better not disappoint her. She's so aw. Yeah. No, that's good. And I have not been big on like the candy aspect of the tradition. Like, yes, candy fun. I really enjoy the vibes. I'm more like make a little fire, rub the ashes on my face, enjoy Samhain type stuff. I enjoy the more like harvesty pagan stuff. Whoop. But yeah, no, but little kids, if they're knocking on your door asking for candy on Halloween, to be clear, other days of the year, that's maybe a little more suspect if you then give them candy. But yeah, it's hard to deny younger kids. Just give them candy. I think I've told it before, but during high school, I liked to like bake a whole bunch of cookies or whatnot every Friday, and I would bring them in to share with folks. And there was one day I came in super early for a test, and I'm standing there with my cookies because I had to bring them, and a little girl, unattended, like 6 years old, walks up and asks me for a cookie. I'm like, I am a almost adult standing here with a plate of cookies. I feel like this is... I would like to give this kid some cookies because I make them to share with people, and I think that would be nice, but also I should not give an unattended minor cookies. But fortunately, the teacher who was their parent came along soon and helped extract it, and they apparently were not interested in butterscotch cookies anyway. But it was just like, I am torn between being nice and giving cookies because it's a young kid asking for cookies. How could I not? And this is not something that would look good on our police report. But yeah, that is an interesting that's an interesting genre. It feels very broad, so I don't know if it does have its own thing, but I get the like where people's issues are the main driving factor. And that's I will say I get very annoyed at plots that like I guess revolve around like stupidity is something that typically bothers me, but if it's like actual issues that people are grappling, if this is something where it's like I can understand why this is a challenge for this person, and it's not just like, oh no, yes, I watched the zombies rip them into shreds, but maybe I can save them. It's like, no, that's not being emotional. That is being flagrantly stupid and then leaving the door open. That is not entertaining to me. But like, look, I know they're probably dead, but it's important to me that I put down whatever's left of them or can bury them or whatnot. If that's the driving thing for it, it's like, I think that's stupid. But I can also understand why someone would actually feel that way within reason, as opposed to, haha, I need a way to make them go interact with stuff again. This one time I was playing at a playground on a warm day and a kind lady offered the kids a drink, so I gladly took it. I could have been poisoned. True. But even so, I feel like, now this is not advocating accepting things from strangers, but I do think that a surprising amount of the time you're not going to get poisoned by a stranger. It is probably not worth the risk, unfortunately, of when it does happen, but you know, I think by and large I've been pleasantly surprised at the kindness of people. But it's certainly because of the risk there and the perceptions that people have of it, it's unfortunately very sketchy to be the person offering things. But it's I love to bake, and I love to bake more than I like to eat what I bake. So I'm frequently in this position of like, how do I pawn off my lovely baked goods on people without them being concerned about me poisoning them? There are more nice people with leftover food than creeps. It's just that, while it's low risk, it's stupidly high consequences. Exactly. No, it's like, so I'm not recommending to go engage with that. But also, I have been pleasantly surprised a number of times when I've felt safe in that situation. Hey, welcome in, Jammer. How's it going? We will probably be wrapping up Celeste here soon-ish, so that we can get a roughly equal amount of Rain World. But man, Threeb has been taking a while. However, we've made some good room progress today. I think we've made it through 2, maybe 3. Wasn't allowed to go to that playground in the first place because it's not visible from your dad's house. I still went. I got grounded every time. I'm still had swings. We do love a good swing. I was way too much of a rule follower to ever consider something like that. Bad stomach bug? Oh no! Stomach bugs suck. That's I am always, if I get like a head cold, they suck, but I'm so used to those, I can deal with those any day of the week. But if it's something that's like to do with my gut or something like with my throat, like strep, I still think strep is the most miserable time I have been sick. But no, yeah, like I crumple like a wet rag if it comes to like a stomach bug. So very sorry, Jammer. See that you're dealing with Oshiro. That's why Chapter 3 is contentious. Nobody likes Oshiro. I like Oshiro as a character. I don't like Oshiro as an obstacle. Sorry, brief tangent on. I will say, there was one time I was having a terrible time with the stomach bug. I will not go into too much detail, but it was very internally painful, and I remember I remember one of my friends was on her period at the time, and there was just like the realization of like how the complaints I was having versus how she had complained about her cramps in the past. I went, oh man, I fold over like this. that is a non-insignificant part of why I think it is important for me to make sure that I have some basic pain relief medication. I don't have any right now, but I'm like, if I am once again in a situation where I am around a number of biologically female friends, I am making sure I have Midol on hand. Because F that. That sucks to experience. Having not experienced it, but experienced something that is just a shadow of that. This game mechanic, he sucks. He's just bad. In a game with little to no complex AI, the first one to have one also has a janky AI, or hitbox, yeah. Isn't the worst of him, so hold tight. No, that's, I do remember, I saw a bit of Tim doing 3C and how horrendous Oshiro was in that, which is, ooh boy. Ooh boy. There. Oh, 3C was something? Yup. I still remember watching you do that for a while on stream, and then you doing that while I was streaming one day, and it taking most of the stream for you to get through it. Oshiro, it's pretty consistent. It's only 3 runes at least. I remember when I said that 3C was the last you got Golden Strawberry on. I mean, he's consistent. His hitbox does seem a little wonky to me. It's not entirely where I would expect, but I'm also bad at expecting things. No. Still only 3 rooms at least, but consistently. This is true. Vertical is consistent. The horizontal, though? Oh, I have not actually noticed that. I don't know if I've ever been in a situation where the horizontal hitbox would matter at all. I think most of the times, if the hitbox was just a single pixel wide, I would be, well, I think I'm far beyond getting angry at game mechanics. In fairness, how often have you seen me get angry at game mechanics? That's generally speaking, I'm here for a good time. I think the only time I have been genuinely like I am frustrated in a not okay way on stream was during some Magic drafts, just because that's something that I really enjoy drafts, and it was a lot of resources. I had spent some actual money so that I could do a little more drafting, and it was just terrible luck. Now I wanted to yell good night to my dad downstairs, but I lost my voice due to the cold. Oh no! You need to do like one of the tin can ones, or the tin can phones, where you connect them with a string, and then if it's taut, it like vibrates and translates, so that you can just whisper it. Since it's based entirely based on the position on the screen as opposed to your position, you can be in the exact same place with Oshiro's dash being totally different. That's positioning on the screen as opposed to your position. Weird, okay. No, I mean Celeste game mechanics. Like, even if there's something terrible, I for sure gaslit myself into— oh, gotcha, I see. It's the— look, this game as you said earlier, right, that this game plays me, so it's you're beyond being angry with the game that holds you hostage. Still does have a visual cue. Gotcha games? Yeah. I've got God. So Arknights is a game I don't actually do a whole lot of it these days. And I have never spent money. But I had some friends who were interested and had a lot of fun with it, so I wasn't quite lined up. But I put in a fair bit of time to that. I've got pretty much all of the operators I'm interested in. I'm still missing W, and I'd also like Ling and Dusk. But I think I've got pretty much everyone else. I should actually check. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. True. The Vampire Chomp. Finally out of Genshin, thank God. Yeah, I still do a little Genshin because the same Arknights friends, unsurprisingly, also enjoy Genshin, and I enjoy some of the story stuff. I'm big fan of Butao. That's actually you know how you get to like name your laptop and whatnot. Mine is named Butao, and I've got a cute little Butao sticker on it. Boop. It does survey. Knowing when it's coming isn't the problem. It's simply that dodging it can be different when one reaches the same position at the same time, depending on the path you took. Oh, gotcha. So your contention with it is that depending on how you route, because he tracks with where you're at, if you route slightly differently at the wrong time, it's not consistent. So you need to be like perfectly consistent with how you do your path for him to also be consistent. Whereas pretty much every other obstacle in Celeste operates on the basis of being a like recurrent pattern or okay. I can kind of see that. I mean, but I feel like that is kind of that's why he exists, right? Is to provide a bit of that randomness in an otherwise fairly structured game. Which I like. That is interesting. I hadn't actually put into that framework. I know you're like, I don't like this, but I'm also like, that's interesting because player input is essentially the only random aspect of this game. Because everything else is on a cycle. So using the player's randomization as a way to randomize it, that's kind of interesting. It's I don't know, it's making me think of the lava lamps that are used to like generate like bits of entropy for the sake of encryption and such. I don't know. It's like I have yet to be too bent up about it. I don't know whether or not it's a good or a bad thing, but it's I had not put it into that framework of like the consistency versus inconsistency, and the fact that its randomness is random entirely on the basis of the player's randomness, which is certainly interesting. Oshiro and Seekers can be super frustrating. It's just that after speedrunning for so long, I feel like I'm saying something I know is true without really remembering it. It's the only randomness. There's a mechanic which is never relevant casually, but is essentially random and it's stupid as hell. Screw subpixels? Okay. But I mean, like, it's still, at least for what I have experienced so far, it is the randomness. Hey! Welcome in, Sigma. Thank you for the raid. We will be switching over to Rain World here soon. I'm like still making enough progress that I'm like not quite ready. Who are you? Oh my god! I've never seen me before. Paying the raid forward. Ayo. How did March speedrunning go? We're back. Huzzah! Earner. But yeah, how did speedruns go? What time do I need to beat now? I like the ability to confidently route on the fly, to improvise depending on how certain points on the route go. That is fun. Got a 21:31. Hot damn. Yeah, that's I think I'm still slightly ahead of that, but sweating. Took out your contacts and literally can't read chat. Think it's bedtime? Absolutely. Thank you for hanging out, Tim. Get some good rest. It was fun watching you. It was fun watching you do bath things. That sounds really weird out of context. Get some good rest. You coming for my time? This is true. God, I definitely did the bathhouse. Oshiro and Seekers do vary from the perspective of the casual player. From a casual player, it's oh, that's true. Seekers do as well. It's only for people who pre-plan their movement where they become consistent. Yeah. Apples because they can't. Hold on. Apparently the game is beatable in less than 17 minutes, so I must be losing a lot. Oh yeah, no, it's not sure not sure that I should tell you the secrets, but at least biggest thing that I've seen as a way to cut down on my time watching Silver is trying to minimize the amount of time that's spent between when you collect a potion and when you shoot it, and between when they spawn and when you collect it. Oh god, you Good. Glad that quote goes in the database. Thank you, Tim. Well, go enjoy your bed things after your bath things, and I'll see you another day. Ah! Nice. Alright, bye. I guess that was from the perspective of pre-planned route. Oshiro is fine. After the issue with Oshiro is how he interacts with inconsistencies, yeah. You gotta feel for him, but essentially impossible for a long time. Craving Chinese food and pigs in a blanket. Oh, that's the little, like, mini hot dogs with, like, a biscuit dough wrapped around them? Hell yeah. Oh, I should make those. Already trying to attack as quickly as possible, and you don't get any time penalty. Damn, then yeah, I don't know what more to do. Out of context quotes are the best, aren't they? Yes, with cheese? Oh, I've never had them, like, with cheese on or in them, but I have gotten, sometimes I can find these, like, little specialty wieners, that are, like, they're like smoked sausage with, like, cheddar cheese in the, like, hot dog itself, and oh, ho. That, yes, absolutely. The cheese makes even more improvement. Don't quote that out of context, Johan. You've never eaten things with cheese in them. Oh no! I make them like a closed pastry so the cheese doesn't leak too much. Gotcha! My head against the brick wall looking for weak points, altering my route on the go, sometimes even in the middle of routes. That is fun for you. I see. Seem to be randomly spawned, so I don't think you can just memorize. Well, they spawn randomly at certain points. It does, I think there may be a little variation per level, but like on phase 2 of the lighthouse, they always spawn in the middle. Between the two like tiers and stuff along those lines. And like Scrappa, there's like three places where it can spawn on phase 3 and such. Also, I noticed your mic was real quiet, but I tried it loud, and you can hear when I hit the flat. Gotcha, and that's what I was trying to say, Silver. Of like once you turn down the music the first time, I'm like, okay, I can actually hear the drums above the music. But yeah, you speaking was very quiet. Have I seen the Celeste speedrun? Actual Fire, one of the most speedrun games of all time. I have not actually watched them. I could probably watch one that was through like A-sides at this point. I've tried intentionally to avoid them because I'm like, I do not want to spoil it. But I could probably watch a limited speedrun at this point and see stuff. Yeah, there are definitely fixed ones. Definitely fixed locations, but they seem to be picked at random. Yeah. Which one it goes to is picked out, but like on Scrappa, I loved this one is ripped from watching Silver, but you can basically guess at one of the 3 and potentially pick up a potion while the scene transition is happening. True, also in the Lighthouse phase 2, the potions only spawn in one spot. Yep. I'll be in front soon. Combust spontaneously. Oh dear. Oh yeah, they play a couple B-sides at 90%? Yeah. Not A-side, spoilers for some top tech. Oh, okay, that's also true. So yeah, so it's like, all red berries run? Maybe? But yeah, so it's like, I'm not inherently against it, but it's like, I tried to be careful with it before. It is something I will probably watch when I have gotten out of this what I'm looking to get out of this. No. Be prudent. Oh, wait, hold up. Me needing to look up something real quick to see if I can actually talk about it. Me trying to remember what's in the States versus out of the States and such is like, can I talk about this? Will this leave things ambiguous? Because I'm like, I'm okay with people thinking I'm in a particular location. I just want to make sure that I'm not like actually giving stuff away. Me pop on down to the Tim Hortons. Work shift for the day got canceled, but I do need to get dinner, so BRB, no worries. Okay. Oh man, they even opened one in Costa Rica, so yeah, that should be fine. It's especially with stuff, I err on the side of caution. Yeah, same here. But it's like, I still, like, want to check it, but it's tough, especially with, like, fast food chains, because sometimes you get, like, really local ones, and they're really good, and you want to, like, oh, but, you know, it's, like, good luck finding them anywhere. But there are some that, like, man, McDonald's. Like, North America, I know, has a lot. And I know, ostensibly, that they are international. It amazed me, in Italy, how many McDonald's there were. And this is something, that, Sorbet, you may know. When I visited the UK, when I was in Edinburgh, it kind of killed me that there were 2 Subway sandwiches, like Subway Eat Fresh. There were 2 of them on the Royal Mile, like one at either end, and that just, for some reason, that murdered me. The worst part, I did actually eat at one of them. But I found a lovely little shop that had like a lovely little hot dog and some haggis flavored chips, which were interesting because they just tasted of umami and pepper. I can see it counting. I just have never considered it counting. Huh? I missed what's counting or not. Oh, yes. For 5B. The set boosted faux supers? Who named the flavor umami. Yeah, no, it's I mean, I believe umami, U-M-A-M-I, is Japanese, or at least it sounds Japanese, so I've just kind of assumed. Oh, no. But yeah. In any case, though, the one that I was going to talk, for some reason, I've suddenly gotten a hankering for, Arby's. The ARBY, they've got, they do a lot of, like, roast beef. But there's something, they do some really interesting sauces that are just, like, very tangy and lovely. Which, oh man, now I want that. I don't even know. Don't even know if there's, when I can get it from, but man. Fast food, man. Not great for you, but sometimes you get the cravings. Not been to Edinburgh in years, and only had one Subway ever because none of their meat-free stuff seems good. That's fair. Yeah, they do not seem great for vegetarian stuff. But man, it's just I don't know. There's just something about being in Edinburgh, seeing the gorgeous castle and all of this history. Went to the Edinburgh Tattoo, and then just 2 friggin' fast food Subway sandwich shops. I don't know, it was similar. I loved visiting Stonehenge. When visiting Stonehenge, the sprinklers went off because they have to keep the lawn watered. So they've got sprinklers there. And there's just, I don't know, there's something that just absolutely slays me about this amazing ancient monument, this testament to what people were able to build with, I think the current going thought is basically log rollers. And just basically primitive human engineering and a lot of labor. And then there's goddamn sprinklers, like, in the circle, because, I mean, that's way better than having someone actually go in to, like, water it and whatnot. It's safer. It just, I don't know, it's just, it was such a harsh juxtaposition of this fantastic ancient monument and oh, that is a memory I will cherish forever. But yeah, no, it's, I love, like, vibe inconsistency. Okay, let's give this like 5 more tries. If we don't make it at that point, we'll that's one. We'll give it 5 more tries, and if we don't make it, we'll call it for the break and then go to ring 1. Were they at least partially disguised to uphold the illusion? Some of them, they were green, right? Which is obviously intended to like blend in with the grass, but it was that like really sort of like, not quite lime, but like lime with a bit of blue green. That's very like unnatural, so they did not blend in super well. Although in fairness, I did not notice them until they started spraying. But also, it's really hard to disguise streams of water. So, yeah, it was a little goofy. I personally, like, I'm okay with that. It made me laugh so much. We will hydrate. Thank you, Robert. There we go. Oh, did stuff in Celeste expecting the berry, and it turned out to be a reference room with just a spike. Oh no! The berry was a lie! Ah, okay, that was 4. Last one. Woo. Nope. Okay, there we go. I did not get around to doing a progress bar. And again, I don't know if I would want to tie that to Baba's U, because that seems like... What if I may actually feel like, I may feel like Baba, sooner than that. But I do want to muck about with doing, like, a goofy little progress bar. The drums and song aren't synced properly. It varied a little bit. There were times, I don't know, like, there are times where it, like, during Painkiller, there were times where I'm like, oh my god, you're doing the drumming. There were definitely times when it was a little out of phase, but it did not bother me most of the time, so I guess I did not think they were super unsynced. But yeah, no, I love things that just like give you a bit of like tonal whiplash. Other things in that vein that I'm delighted by is when you find when we find like cave carvings or paintings from like, you know, 6th century like Vikings saying like Halfdan was here. I love that. I love that so much. I love thinking about things like the first sharks are older than the brightest star in the Sirius star system. You know, the North Star. Sharks have been around for longer than that. Although apparently it's a trinary star system. I always thought it was binary, but apparently it's trinary. I love when you can say things a little cheekily, but like the Middle Ages lasted from the end of the fall of the Roman Empire to the fall of the Roman Empire. Just things that like muck with your head a bit. What the hell is trinary? Well, so binary, bi means 2, tri means 3. It's like binary, but with, yeah, so 0, 1, and 2. But in the context of a star system, rather than a binary system where they're orbiting each other, it's 3 stars that are orbiting each other. In this case, I think what happened, so there was Sirius A and Sirius B. Sirius A was way brighter, Sirius B is way older and dimmer, and we thought it was binary, but then there's a super dim star that's doing a binary orbit with Sirius A, and they're kind of acting like a unit in comparison to Sirius B, but we were finally able to see it, but confusingly, apparently now it's Sirius AA and Sirius AB, and then Sirius B. Which I find that really funny. Actually, hold up. Sirius star system. Bum, bum, bum. Is it heptanary or septenary? I think it would be heptanary. I suspect. I don't actually know. Well, because it typically follows the decimal one, so it would be, or so like. Actually, I don't know if it's I think it's heptadecimal rather than septadecimal, but I don't know. 0 try is 0 decimal, 1 try is 1 decimal, 2 try is 2 decimal, 10 try is 3, or 1 0 is 3 decimal. Yep. 1 1 try would be 4 decimal. Yep. I'd say every star is pretty serious. yeah, so this is, the North Star, right? So, um, brightest star in the night sky, um, which again, to be clear, because this isn't it something like 90% of Earth's population is in the northern hemisphere. So like, if we get some of our Brazil folks rise up, no, it's not just the North Star, because southern hemisphere you use the Southern Cross, right? I think for celestial navigation. Um, Basically each digit is some power of 3. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so but brightest star in the northern hemisphere sky, used for navigation. But it's so Sirius A twice as massive. Okay, no, but where's the? Hold up, I was reading about this just the other day. Stellar system. There we go. A apparent third star. Oh, that's so good. So, since 1894, irregularities have been tentatively observed in the orbits of Sirius A and B with an apparent periodicity of 6 to 6.4 years. A 1995 study concluded that such a companion likely exists with a mass of roughly 0.05 solar mass, small red dwarf or large brown dwarf, with an apparent magnitude of more than 15 and less than 3 arcseconds from Sirius A. I do not know astronomy well enough to fully process that. 2017, more accurate astrometric observations by the Hubble Space Telescope ruled out the existence of a stellar mass-sized Sirius C, while still allowing a substellar mass candidate, such as a lower mass brown dwarf. Okay, so apparently it's hypothetical, and they are saying Sirius C. The thing that I've been reading, I guess, was just like someone's blog, but they were calling it Sirius AA and Sirius AB. But okay, interesting. Johan reading stream. Ayo. That's Jump King was typically when we did this, where we're like, oh, let's just talk about whatever. But yeah, so just interesting that we're still finding out things about, like, I don't actually know how far back we have records of the North Star, but I assume it's pretty far back. I mean, that's something that's super visible to the naked eye. So I imagine I'll need to look at that. But like, that is, oh wait, observational history. Some of the earliest astronomical records. Who would have guessed? It's not actually specifying that, but we can look at that more later. But like, that is something that people have been looking at for probably as long as human history has been around, and we're still finding out new things about it because we're getting better eyes. We're getting better ability to predict things with math. When I say better eyes, better telescopes, right? Like, that's so cool to me. That's so cool to me. That there are things that most humans have probably looked at some point and scrutinized, and that we're still able to learn more about it. Yay! There's still so much joy in the world. Have wonder. In any case, though, we are going to be taking a 3-minute break because I really need to take a 3-minute break. So we will be taking a 3-minute break. And then we will be coming back with Rain World for like an hour and a half, somewhere in there. This is a fantastic opportunity. Exactly. Go piss, girl. That's quite literally what's going to happen. Gotta let off some ink. Oh man. I need to further steal ideas from Tim. I should have a piss break screen in addition to the normal break screen. Go piss, person. You made me ink. Oh dear. Yeah, so this is a fantastic opportunity to remember that you have a corporeal form. So stand up, stretch, posture check, grab some snacks, grab some water if you need it. If you've got meds and now is an appropriate time to take them, this is a great opportunity to do so. Remember that there's a lovely world out there, be it day or night, and we can talk about stars and you can look at the little ink blob, but also remember there's probably birds out, or even just insects, maybe some rain, some clouds. Remember that it exists. And if you've got anything else that you need to get to in your day, this is probably a good time to transition. We'll be back in about 3 minutes for like an hour and a half, so escape the gravity well while you can. It's almost 11 p.m. You should not have snacks. Fair enough. It is actually. Huzzah! But yeah, so we will be back in about 3-ish minutes. As always, there's the trivia that's in a debatably working condition. We'll find out, but that's exclamation point answer, and then type one of the answers exactly, and we'll find out at the end. You should do that assignment. Exactly. You can, mute the stream, or you can leave is probably the safest, but if you still want to hang out, you can always mute it or just turn it on low. treat me like lo-fi. But yeah, go do things. Go do great things. I'm going to go piss. So catch you on the flip side. Be back in about 3-ish minutes. Bye-bye!